Hi everyone, welcome to the Expansion Frequency episode 2. My name is Carolina Balboa. I'm your host and I'm very excited to be back here. The first episode was all about intentional traveling during this holiday season and how to have intentional rituals or mindsets to really help us navigate this time that can feel like a lot for a lot of us. And I got this inspiration to continue along those lines because now we all landed, or we're all in transit to land into our hometowns. A lot of us, right? If you choose to spend this time with people that are very familiar with you, maybe your childhood friends, and it can be very challenging, and you're not alone. I always think that going back home, spending time with family and friends is a blessing because you really have an opportunity to see where old wounds are, because we can get very easily activated. But of course, it can be very challenging. So that's what I want to cover here, to share a little bit of my perspective to hopefully make this time enjoyable and not like a burden, because it can be intense. So the first thing I wanted to share is like, what are triggers, right? Because that's something that a lot of us feel when we can be very frustrated, feeling that we're failing, because back wherever you live, you are all grounded with your meditation, and it's so easy for you to be in that version of yourself that you love. But then as soon as you get home, you are quickly activated and triggered, and of course it can be frustrating because it's not comfortable to reconnect to that wounded version of ourselves. But the beauty of it is, if we reframe, triggers are a beautiful way for us to identify areas in ourselves that are still unhealed. And that means that they need to be seen. We need to address. Otherwise, we just keep in our nervous system, basically. Triggers are just nervous system memory. And that's why families and childhood friends, like, they can easily trigger us in that way. Because they know us before we fully form the mask of who we became. Sometimes it's being that good girl, or sometimes it can be like the strong one, the spiritual person. There's just so many labels, right, that we created in our lives, or identities. They can easily bring us back to that version of us before we figured out all these identities to survive. So our old roles can get easily, and they can be activated automatically. And our nervous system remembers who you had to be before that. So you might feel small, you might not feel seen. All of these uncomfortable memories, they can come up. But that's not a regression. It's actually just a memory that lives in our bodies because we haven't fully healed that side of us. So I see that as a beautiful thing, because it's giving us an opportunity to check in again and now work through it. So healing doesn't mean never getting activated. It means noticing faster, being kinder to yourself. That's like a huge part of it. And choosing differently when we can, right? And I feel that compassion and kindness is so important when we are in the spaces, because I see that when we are with our families and wherever childhood, where we're from, is the battlefield, for a lack of a better word. I feel that we all have this beautiful opportunity to get our tools and practice, like kind of training when we are separated from it. But then when we are back home, is the ultimate test. It's just it's kind of understanding the level, like an assessment of like, how am I really doing? What parts I'm okay and I actually worked through, and water is still a little bit muddy, right? It still has a lot of power over me, because ideally, if it's healed, it does not trigger you. So I always see a trigger like, I love the curiosity of like, wow, I am being activated right now. So this still a wound is something that I still need to pay attention to, and be kind to myself as I'm doing my best, because a lot of times you can do 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and sometimes 1 step forward and 2 steps back, right? And being able to identify and have a different relationship to these triggers, so you can learn and alchemize that. And I love a quote that Ram Dass that I took to my heart, that is, if you think you are enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And I find that so powerful, because Again, it's a way for us to really see how we're truly doing. And family is the real dojo, and dojo is a Japanese word saying like place of the way, right? So is where you practice. It's not where you perform. So is where you're gonna be challenged, you're gonna be corrected, you're gonna be humbled, and you're refining. So it's a beautiful opportunity to actually go there. So you go to retreats, you go to all these spaces to fill your cup, to do the healing in a very intentional space. But then this is the actual opportunity for you to work through stuff. That is the real life exam, right? No incense, no safe container. You're just out there in the wild, seeing how all the ceremonies and retreats actually gave you that training ground. Of course, here is not about tolerating any abuse or anything that is, of course, like we all know our limits and what we experience. So I would say see what resonates out there with your situation. It's more about awareness, boundaries, and self-regulation when I'm talking about triggers here. It's not about staying calm all the time. It's really the practice of noticing when you're not when you're not calm, and choosing compassion instead of self-judgment and being frustrated here. So that's the part that is very important. So practical tools that I find helpful is to name it silently in myself, like, ooh, I am being activated right now, or like, wow, this is old, and I can see my inner child really not feeling seen or not feeling heard. And noticing that it's just a past version of me that still needs some love and attention. So what helps, right? How can we regulate before responding? Sometimes that can be very challenging. And again, it's not a linear or a perfect path, and that's okay. So trying to slower exhale, like staying to like have your feet on the ground. Sometimes just putting my hand on my heart, one in the belly, just can give my groundness. Like I am here, like I feel seen, like you're your home, right? Everyone around us, they're all mirrors and teachers to help us evolve ultimately. So how can we nurture that beautiful safe container within ourselves? That's the real gold. And permission to take space. Sometimes it's being able to take an opportunity to go on a break, right? And like remove yourself from that space that you're being triggered, and not putting gas in the fire, for example. So going for walks and maybe early nights, like to rest. Like you don't need to be always available. I think that's it too. Like sometimes when we go back to family, they easily like, oh, I need you to do this, I need help with this. But like being able to say no to and set your boundaries as well, so you don't feel that you're overgiving and draining, but still being present. I think that a lot of times when I try to not overpack my schedule. I try to be a lot more on a slower pace, so I get myself space to ground, while also being able to say yes when it serves me, but I'm not being depleted because I'm trying to do so much, and I feel suffocated trying to hold space for everyone, and then I don't hold space for myself. And that's something that I did experience in the past. So for me, it's very important. Like if the environment is bringing you back like to old versions of yourself, that doesn't mean that you fail. Like it means that you're just a human. You're experiencing all these layers. Like healing is layered. So being triggered doesn't mean that you are behind. Like just family systems they just take time to unwind, and is a constant school for progress, for you to shed all these layers that we all carry. So if you have some time today, or just by listening now, I invite you to reflect on a few points. One is, what is this moment inviting me to practice? This is so big. A lot of times when I am in a line and I'm feeling impatient or feeling rushed, I take a moment and I witness that, like, wow, I am very impatient, and there's an opportunity for me to practice patience. So when we're praying and like, oh, please give me strength, give me patience, right? Like they're not just gonna give us, they're gonna give us like situations where we're gonna be tested, we're gonna be impatient, and that's where we take a deep breath and like, okay, this is a patience practice. So see what comes up for you. So what is this moment inviting me to practice? And check in and use this as an opportunity for you to evolve in that aspect. And another thing is, can I be 5% kinder to myself here? I think that's so important too. Often we are so hard on ourselves, like paying attention to your inner dialogue. How are you talking to yourself? And what will regulation look like? And not perfection. I often too, I feel society really forces us to be so perfect and we gotta be so on top of everything. But realistically, we're not perfect beings. We're perfectly imperfect. And loving ourselves for exactly who we are, where we are at, that is the most beautiful thing we can do to ourselves. So think like, what would regulation look like? Would that be what would that be, that version of you, right? And what are the tools that you have right now? Sometimes again, it's just taking some time away from that situation, take a deep breath. So just seeing what comes up for you when you sit with that. So this is where the work becomes real, right? And it's okay to go slow. That's why, as I said, to be able to go very gentle in these times and not overcommit, not overextend yourself. So you fill your cup as well and you don't feel drained and just burned out from the experience. Because ultimately, families and close friends, they are such a beautiful teacher for us, for our spiritual path. So using this as an opportunity for you to actually heal parts and transmute whatever is ready to be transmuted. And if triggers are happening to you, guess what? You should be thanking them, because now is an opportunity for you to do something with that. Like a lotus flower coming from the mud, how can we transmute that to become a beautiful lotus flower? So there's not one without the other. There's no light without darkness. It's all about these polarities. How can we actually navigate that? With all that being said, I wish you the best of luck. Let me know if any of this resonated with you. Let me know directly or leave a comment. And I would love to see if this was helpful for you. And you got this. Until next time.